The streets of Ageromi were soaked in rain when Lara Daniels returned home from her shift at the cafe. Her feet ached, her apron was soaked, and the weight of another thankless day sat heavy on her shoulders. She paused at the mailbox, rusted and barely hanging on. There, sticking out from the pile of bills and flyers, was a single envelope. Thick, cream-colored, wax-sealed in gold. Elegant. Out of place in her world. Before we jump into the story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories. She tore it open under the flickering kitchen light. To Lara Daniels, you are hereby invited to the reading of the last will and testament of Mr. Richard Hamilton, scheduled for the 12th of this month at Hamilton Manor, Lagos. You have been named a legal heir. Daniels and Company. Legal Chambers. She froze. Richard Hamilton? The billionaire? She didn't know him. She had never even met him. But somehow that letter carried her name. Her hands trembled as she sat on the only chair in her room. The leaking roof dripped steadily beside her. For a moment, time stood still. And then she whispered, "Why me?" 2 days later, Lara stood before the gates of Hamilton Manor. Tall, intimidating iron gates. Guards. Palm trees swaying in the estate breeze. The air here smelled like power, like perfume and polished marble. She felt the ache of her worn sneakers and the heat of judgmental eyes as the guard inspected her envelope. "She's on the list," one whispered. Strange. As the gates opened, Lara stepped into a world she never knew existed. But this world had teeth. Inside the mansion, Lara was ushered into the foyer, where oil paintings hung like guardians from the past. A woman with stern eyes. A young man with a cold smile. A baby cradled in shadows. Servants stared. Some whispered. "She looks like her," one maid said to another. "You don't see it?" Lara took in the chandeliers, the marbled floor, and the hallway that seemed to stretch forever. She had walked through dirt roads all her life. Now she walked among secrets. She was led to a grand room, where the family waited. And they did not look happy to see her. At the long table sat Madame Eloise, regal and cruel-eyed. To her right, Jordan Hamilton, cocky, entitled, swirling his wine glass like a weapon. Beside him, Fiona, flawless on the outside, venom underneath. Lara sat at the far end, alone. Mr. Peters, the family lawyer, cleared his throat. "Mr. Richard Hamilton has passed. His final will, signed 2 months before his death, names a previously unknown biological daughter, Lara Daniels, as heir to 50% of his estate." Fiona gasped. 50? This is a joke. Eloise remained still, her jaw clenched, eyes icy. Jordan laughed bitterly. "She's a waitress. Look at her. Where did she even come from?" Mr. Peters didn't flinch. DNA verification was completed under court supervision. "She is his daughter." Lara couldn't breathe. She wasn't here to steal. She was here to understand. But now she had stepped into a war. That night, Lara was given a guest room. It was beautiful. Too beautiful. A bed larger than her entire room back home. But beauty didn't stop the fear creeping in. She stared at the portrait above the bed. A woman with sad eyes. Then, the door creaked. Lara rushed to it. No one. But on the floor, someone had slipped a note under the door. "You were never supposed to be found. Leave, or be buried like the others." Her hands shook. She wasn't just unwelcome. She was a threat. In the morning, while exploring the garden, Lara met Amaka, a quiet housemaid with soft eyes. "You're the daughter?" Amaka asked in a hushed tone. "I don't know what I am anymore," Lara said. Amaka looked around before speaking. "I worked here when your mother was here. Before they erased her." Lara froze. "My mother? You knew her?" Amaka nodded. "She was beautiful. Quite. She loved him." Madame Eloise made her disappear. "What do you mean disappear?" Amaka hesitated. "Don't ask me here. Meet me by the old chapel. Tonight." The chapel on the estate was abandoned. Dusty, broken windows, candles burnt long ago. Lara arrived at midnight. Amaka came, holding a cloth-wrapped book. "She kept this in the attic," she said. It's your mother's journal. I couldn't throw it away. Lara unwrapped it, heart racing. June 7th, Richard doesn't know yet. But I'm pregnant. He'll be happy. He said he wanted a daughter. August 2nd, Eloise threatened me. She said if I didn't leave, she'd make me regret it. December 13th, I saw something in her eyes. She wants me gone. Richard doesn't believe me. If you're reading this, it means I lost. Tears filled Lara's eyes. This mansion wasn't just hiding her identity. It was hiding a crime. Soft, eerie music fades in. After reading her mother's journal, Lara sat awake in the guest room, unable to sleep. Every creak in the old house made her heart pound. Suddenly, whispers. She opened the door and peeked out. Down the hall, shadows moved. 2 figures. She followed quietly, bare feet on cold tiles. Jordan and Fiona stood outside the study, arguing in hushed tones. She's going to find out, Fiona hissed. Dad told her something before he died. I know it. Jordan scoffed. So what? We bury it like everything else. No one will believe a street rat over us. Lara backed away slowly, until her foot hit a vase. Crush. She ran. Behind her, silence. They knew. And now, she knew they were hiding something more. Back in her room, Lara pulled out the old Nokia phone her foster mom had given her years ago. She dialed the only number she remembered, her late mother's best friend, Mama Nkechi. Mama, Lara said, voice trembling. Did my mother ever mention a man named Richard Hamilton? The old woman was silent. Then, softly, your father. Lara broke. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because we were afraid, Mama said. Your mother loved him. But Eloise came to our home once. After your mother left the estate. She said if we spoke again, we'd regret it. A week later, our house caught fire. We never called the police. Lara's chest tightened. What happened to my mother, Mama? She died, but I never believed it was an accident. The next morning, Amaka took Lara to a locked room on the 3rd floor. Sealed since Richard's death. This was his sanctuary, she whispered. Only he had the key. He came here when he missed your mother. They opened the door. Inside, photographs, letters, paintings, dozens of them. All of Helen, Lara's mother. Tears filled her eyes. On the desk, a final, unfinished letter in Richard's handwriting. To my daughter, if I am no longer here, know that I tried to bring the truth to light. But this house, this family, has buried so many secrets. Eloise is not who she pretends to be. She's done things, terrible things. And if you're reading this, I pray you find the courage I didn't have. It was signed, but unfinished. That night, Lara called Jordan. I need to talk. Just us. No lawyers. No press. Just truth. He agreed. They met in the wine cellar. You think you can just take everything? He spat. You know nothing about this family. I know you've lied, Lara said. I know you're not even his real son. He stiffened. What? I found the adoption papers. You and Fiona were adopted by Eloise before she married him. That's why he kept all his real treasures hidden away from her. Jordan was speechless. I don't want the money, Lara whispered. I want justice. Then, from the shadows, Detective Kalu stepped out. We got it all, he said. The next morning, the estate was surrounded by police cars. Eloise was taken into custody. She screamed, "This is nonsense. She's a gold digger. That's all she is." But the officers had evidence: Richard's recording, poison traces in his medicine, and testimony from a former staff who had disappeared but now returned from hiding. She forced me to mix it, the man confessed. She said it was just a sedative. But I saw what it did to him. Jordan and Fiona stood frozen. For the first time, powerless. Weeks later, Lara stood in the mansion alone. Papers were signed. Ownership transferred. She was the legal heir. But she packed her bags. Amaka found her in the foyer. You're leaving? I don't belong here, Lara said. This house is full of ghosts. But what will you do? I'm turning the estate into something new. A shelter. For girls like me. For women like my mother. Forgotten, Abandoned. Silenced. She hugged Amaka tightly. As Lara stepped out of the mansion, the sun rose behind her. She hadn't just uncovered a secret. She had rewritten a legacy. Quiet music swells, a mix of sorrow and hope. Lara stood in the old rose garden behind the estate, now overgrown with weeds. She knelt beside a small stone plaque recently installed. Helen Adeola Daniels, beloved mother. Unforgotten. She placed a single white rose atop it. I'm here now, Mama. I found you. I found me. Behind her, the sun warmed the crumbling bricks of Hamilton Manor, once a tomb of secrets, now on the brink of becoming something new. Inside, Lara sat in the study, Richard's old sanctuary. Detective Kalu joined her with files in hand. We traced the poison back to Eloise's private supplier, he said. She covered her tracks well, but Richard's quiet suspicions helped us piece it together. Lara flipped through the photos. Richard's hospital records. Eloise's prescriptions. The receipt from a discreet pharmacy in Spain. But why wait? Lara asked. Why didn't he tell someone earlier? Kalu sighed. Fear. Shame. And maybe guilt. He let too many things slide when your mother disappeared. She closed the folder. He tried in the end. Yes, Kalu said gently. And you finished what he started. 3 months later, Hamilton Manor was reborn. No longer a cold symbol of wealth, it had been transformed into the Helen Foundation Home, a transitional refuge for young women, survivors of abuse, homelessness, and abandonment. Lara walked the halls, not as an heiress, but as a founder, a leader. She had built dorms where dusty bedrooms once lay, classrooms where lounges had been. Her mother's old portrait now hung in the foyer. She spoke at the first open house event. My mother was silenced. But today, her voice lives in every girl who walks these halls. This house no longer belongs to secrets. It belongs to truth. The crowd applauded. Amaka wept silently in the back. Jordan and Fiona didn't vanish completely. Jordan was sentenced to community service and financial restitution. He had assisted in covering up documents but wasn't part of the murder. Fiona disappeared to London, rumors swirling of a new identity. Lara didn't chase revenge. She had no need. Their greatest punishment was watching her rise. One morning, as Lara watered the flowers at her mother's grave, a man in his 60s approached. Thin. Nervous. Are you Lara Daniels? She nodded. I knew your mother, he said softly. I was the driver. The one Eloise paid to abandon her. She froze. I never forgave myself. But I kept a box. Letters, photos. She gave them to me that night. I've kept them all these years. He handed her a weathered package. She opened it and for the first time, saw her mother's own handwriting, her smile captured in real film, a cassette labeled. For my daughter, someday. Lara's tears spilled as she clutched it to her chest. That night, Lara sat in the study. Alone. She placed the cassette in an old recorder, fingers trembling. Her mother's voice crackled to life. My sweet girl, if you're hearing this, you've come home. You've done what I couldn't. You're stronger than me. Braver. And I love you. Lara closed her eyes, letting the sound of her mother's voice wash over her. Remember, you are not what they called you. Not a mistake. Not a stain. You are legacy. You are mine. The tape ended. Silence fell. But Lara's heart was louder than ever. In the months that followed, Lara published a memoir, The Forgotten Daughter. It became a bestseller, not because it was scandalous, but because it was honest. It told the story of a young woman who had been erased and rewrote her own fate. She gave all proceeds to the foundation. In an interview, a reporter asked, "What would you say to the Lara Daniels who received that letter in the rain?" Lara smiled. I'd say, the rain was never the end. It was the washing away of lies. And sometimes the truth doesn't roar. It whispers. And in the final scene, Lara stands at the entrance of the new center. Young girls run across the lawn. Laughter fills the air. Staffers move with purpose. Life has returned to the mansion. A new portrait hangs in the foyer, Lara and Helen, side by side, digitally recreated. Underneath it, a bronze plaque. In memory of the women the world forgot, and in honor of the ones who refused to stay silent. Lara turns to leave the room, her footsteps steady. She's not a stranger anymore. She is the daughter. She is the legacy. She is home.